Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of Mars Station, watching Earth rise over the red horizon. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, home to 12 billion souls. She smiled, thinking about how far humanity had come. Just 3 centuries ago, humans were still bound to one world. Now they lived on dozens of planets and moons across 12 star systems. Behind her, the laboratory hummed with activity. Alien plants grew under controlled lights, samples from 6 different worlds. Sarah's job was to study how Earth crops could grow alongside alien vegetation. It was important work. Humanity needed to feed its growing population across the stars. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this," her assistant called out. His voice carried worry. Sarah turned from the window and walked to his station. On the screen, red warnings flashed across a genetic sequence. It was wheat, simple Earth wheat from the hydroponics bay, but something was wrong with it. The DNA was breaking apart at the quantum level, unraveling like a sweater with a pulled thread. "When did this start?" Sarah asked. "An hour ago. But it's not just the wheat. It's spreading to everything human touched in Bay 7. Sarah felt cold fear settle in her stomach. She had never seen anything like this. Across the Sol system, similar reports flooded in. On Europa Station, the ice drilling equipment suddenly stopped working. Engineers couldn't explain why perfectly good machines simply refused to function. On Titan, colonists reported feeling confused and forgetful. A ship captain near Jupiter forgot how to navigate, even though he'd been flying for 20 years. Commander Marcus Webb received the reports in Earth's Defense Network headquarters. The tall man with gray-streaked hair read each message with growing alarm. Ships were breaking down. People were getting sick. Technology was failing. All at once, all across human space. "Get me the Galactic Council," he ordered. The council met in a massive station that orbited a neutral star. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber. Most of them looked like nothing from Earth's imagination. Some were clouds of gas held together by energy fields. Others were insect-like or resembled living crystals. They came in all shapes and sizes, but they all shared one thing. They had survived for millions of years among the stars. Cal Thor watched the emergency session from his observation post. He was an insectoid being, with 4 arms and compound eyes that saw in spectrums humans couldn't imagine. For 40 years he had lived near Earth's solar system, studying humanity. He had grown fond of them, these quick and curious creatures who built and explored with such passion. The council chamber filled with concerned voices, translated by quantum computers into every language. "The humans are experiencing a fracture event," announced the Varen Collective, an ancient consciousness that existed across multiple bodies. Its voice echoed with the weight of ages. "We have seen this before in other species." "What is a fracture?" demanded the Thorian ambassador, a being of living rock. "It is the universe's test," the Varen explained. "When a species advances too quickly, when they build technology faster than they evolve naturally, the quantum field itself rejects them. It is rare but not unknown." Calthor felt his heart sink. He had read about fracture events in the ancient archives. No species had ever survived one. "Can we help them?" he asked, his translator clicking his words into common speech. The council fell silent. Some species looked away. Finally, the Varen spoke again. "We cannot. The fracture targets only the affected species and anything they have touched. If we enter their space, we risk triggering our own fracture events. The quantum field would see us as part of the problem, so we just watch them die?" Calthor's voice rose in anger. "We must," said the council leader, a being of pure energy. "A quarantine is established immediately. No ship enters human space. We will monitor, but we cannot intervene." Back on Mars Station, Sarah worked day and night. She barely slept, barely ate. The fracture was spreading faster now. Half the station reported symptoms: memory loss, confusion, depression. The crops were dying. The air recyclers were failing. She dove deep into her research, cross-referencing everything she knew about quantum biology. There had to be an answer, somewhere in the data, something that could save them. Late one night, or what passed for night on Mars, she found something. The fracture wasn't random. It followed patterns, mathematical sequences that looked almost intentional, as if something was testing humanity, probing for weaknesses. She recorded everything in encrypted logs, hiding them deep in the station's computers. If humanity survived this, they would need to know what she discovered. The fracture wasn't a weapon. It wasn't even an attack. It was a test, a challenge from the universe itself, but there was more. In human DNA, buried in the sequences that scientists called junk genes, she found something extraordinary. Dormant code waiting to be activated, potential abilities that humans had never used. Perhaps these genes were the answer. Perhaps humanity needed to evolve not just technologically but biologically. Sarah never got to test her theory. 6 months after the fracture began, Mars station went dark. The last transmission was garbled, breaking apart like everything else human-made. On Earth, cities fell silent. Power grids failed. Billions died as life support systems stopped working, as medicine stopped being effective, as people simply forgot how to survive. Commander Webb stood on the bridge of the flagship Endeavour, the last fully operational human warship. Around him, his crew worked at stations that flickered and sparked. They were losing the battle against entropy itself. "Sir, we're receiving requests for help from 17 colonies. They're going dark one by one." Marcus looked at the star map. The lights representing human worlds were winking out like candles in the wind. He had fought many battles in his long career, but you couldn't fight this. You couldn't shoot quantum decay. "Send out the final order," he said quietly. "All ships are to scatter. Find somewhere to hide, somewhere to survive. Keep humanity alive no matter what it takes." He activated the broad-spectrum transmitter one last time. "This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb to all human forces. We don't know what's happening to us, but we can't give up. Find a way to survive. Find a way to live. Someday, somehow, we'll rebuild. This is not the end of humanity. It's just the dark before the dawn." The transmission ended. One by one, human ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing into the darkness between stars. They went in all directions, hoping that distance might save them. Calthor watched from his observation post as the last human signals faded from his sensors. The Sol system, once bright with radio chatter and quantum communications, fell silent. Earth, Mars, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn all went dark. He should have left. His superiors ordered him to return to Council space. But Calthor stayed at his post, maintaining a lonely vigil. He didn't know why. Perhaps it was foolish hope. Perhaps it was guilt. The Council had abandoned humanity in their darkest hour. Someone should remember them. Someone should bear witness. In the Galactic Archives, the Varen Collective added a new entry. Species, Homo sapiens. Status, extinct. Duration, 300,000 years. They had burned bright and fast, these humans, like shooting stars that lit up the night before fading away. The galaxy moved on. New trade routes avoided the dead zone where humanity once thrived. Ships gave wide berth to the quarantine systems. Within a few years, most species stopped thinking about humans at all. But in the darkness of dead space stations and ruined cities, in underground shelters and fleeing colony ships, humans survived. Diminished, broken, scattered across the stars like seeds in the wind, but alive. The test had begun. And humanity, without knowing it, had just taken the first step toward their answer. 47 years had passed since the fracture destroyed human civilization. The galaxy had forgotten about the species that once seemed destined for greatness. New powers rose and fell. Trade continued. Life went on. But Calthor had not forgotten. The old insectoid still maintained his observation post at the edge of what was once human space. His compound eyes had dimmed with age. His movements were slower now. His people had long since stopped asking him to come home. They thought he was mad, wasting his final years watching a graveyard. Every day Calthor scanned the dead systems. Every day he found only silence. But still he watched. Still he hoped. Deep beneath the rust-red surface of Mars, in tunnels that stretched for kilometers, Maya Chen wiped sweat from her forehead. The air was thick and hot. The environmental systems were failing again. They were always failing these days. Maya was 23 years old. She had been born 3 years after the fracture, born into a dying world. She had never seen Earth, never walked under an open sky, never known anything but these metal corridors and the constant struggle to survive. "Maya, we need you in the archive room," called out old Thomas. He was 50, which made him ancient by post-fracture standards. Most people didn't live that long anymore. Maya followed him through narrow tunnels where pipes dripped rust-colored water. The Mars Underground they called their home. 5,000 people lived here, the last surviving humans on the Red Planet, maybe the last humans anywhere for all they knew. The archive room was Maya's domain. Rows of ancient computers lined the walls. kept running through improvised repairs and desperate measures. These machines held all that remained of human knowledge: history, science, art, everything. Maya was a memory keeper. It was her job to maintain the databases to make sure humanity's story didn't disappear completely. "Server 7 is dying," Old Thomas said. "We need to transfer the data before we lose it." Maya sat at her station and began the delicate work. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling files from the corrupted storage: medical research, engineering designs, personal journals from before the fracture. Each file was precious beyond measure. As she worked, she found something strange: a locked folder, encrypted with old military-grade security. The label read, "Chen S. Personal Research." Chen, Maya whispered. That was her family name. Her grandmother had been Sarah Chen, a scientist who died on Mars Station when the fracture hit. Maya had never known her, but she'd heard stories. It took Maya 3 days to crack the encryption. Old Thomas helped her, using password techniques from ancient manuals. When the files finally opened, Maya felt her breath catch in her throat. Her grandmother's research logs filled the screen. Sarah Chen's voice, preserved in text and video, spoke across 47 years. Maya read through the night, forgetting to eat or sleep. Sarah had discovered the truth about the fracture. It wasn't a weapon or a plague. It was a test, built into the fabric of the universe itself. When species advanced too quickly with technology, when they relied on machines instead of developing their own natural abilities, the quantum field pushed back. Other species in the galaxy had evolved for millions of years before reaching the stars. They had developed natural quantum sensing, the ability to manipulate reality with their minds. Humanity had skipped those steps, building ships and computers without ever developing their inner potential. But Sarah had found something else. Human DNA contained dormant genes, capabilities waiting to be unlocked. If humans could activate these genes, if they could learn to work with quantum fields instead of against them, they might survive. They might even surpass their former glory. The logs ended abruptly. Sarah had been planning to test her theories when Mars Station failed. She never got the chance. Maya sat back, her mind racing. Could this be real? Could there be a way to save humanity, hidden in their own biology? She looked around the archive room. The underground was dying. They all knew it. The life support systems were patched together with parts that wouldn't last another year. Food production was failing. Every day brought new problems that they couldn't fix. They had to try something, anything. "Old Thomas," Maya said, "we need to get to Earth." The old man looked at her like she'd gone mad. "Earth, Maya, Earth is dead. Everyone knows that. And we don't have ships anymore. That old shuttle in Bay 4 hasn't worked in decades." "Then we make it work," Maya said. She showed him Sarah's research. "My grandmother found a way. We have to reach Earth. We have to test her theories." Old Thomas read through the logs. Maya saw hope kindle in his tired eyes, a spark she hadn't seen in years. This would take weeks to repair that shuttle. Maybe months. And we might die trying to reach Earth. "We're dying here anyway," Maya said. "At least this way we die trying." Word spread through the underground. Maya Chen had found a way, a possible cure for the fracture. People who hadn't hoped in years suddenly saw a future. Volunteers came forward. Engineers who had been maintaining failing systems now turned their skills to the old shuttle. It took 2 months of constant work. They cannibalized every spare part in the underground. The shuttle would fly once, maybe. It couldn't support more than 6 people. It was a desperate gamble. Maya stood in the launch bay with 5 volunteers. Old Thomas, who said he wanted to see Earth one last time before he died. 2 engineers, sisters named Rita and Samira. A young man named David who had been born deaf because the fracture had destroyed genetic medicine. And Chen Wei, an old man who claimed to be Maya's distant uncle. "The flight will take 40 days, Rita said, checking the jury-rigged navigation system. "If nothing breaks." "Something will break," Samira added with a grim smile. "We'll fix it." The underground gathered to watch them leave. 5,000 people, the last of Mars. Children who had never seen the sky. Adults who barely remembered the time before the fracture. Old ones who carried memories of better days. Maya looked at their faces. She was doing this for them. For everyone. For the ghost of her grandmother who had died trying to save them all. The shuttle launched through the old bay doors. The engines coughed and sputtered but held. Mars fell away beneath them, growing smaller until it was just another red dot in the darkness. The journey was harder than anyone expected. On the third day, the main engine failed. Samira spacewalked for 6 hours in a suit held together with tape, patching the fusion core with parts that weren't meant to fit. On day 12, they lost half their water reserves to a cracked tank. They rationed what remained, their lips cracking from thirst. David got sick on day 20. Without proper medicine, there was nothing they could do. He died quietly in his sleep, and they gave him to the void, a funeral in the stars. Old Thomas held Maya when she cried. He knew the risks. We all did. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing. On day 38, Earth appeared in their view screen, the blue planet cradle of humanity, but as they got closer, Maya's heart sank. The world was dark. No lights on the night side. No satellites in orbit. No radio signals. It really is dead, Wei whispered. No, Maya said. Look there. Near the equator. Those could be fires. Someone might be alive. They had fuel for one landing. Rita aimed for Central Africa, near what old Thomas said used to be Lake Victoria. The shuttle screamed through the atmosphere, heat shields glowing red. Alarms blared. The engines fired in desperate bursts. They crashed more than landed. The shuttle tore through a forest, breaking trees, tearing metal. Maya was thrown against her harness hard enough to crack ribs. Everything spun and screamed and then suddenly stopped. Silence. Maya's hands shook as she unbuckled her harness. Around her, the others were doing the same. Rita had a bleeding cut on her head. Samira's arm hung at an odd angle. Old Thomas was unconscious but breathing. Maya opened the hatch. Air rushed in. Real air, not recycled and stale. It smelled of earth and plants and rain. She climbed out of the broken shuttle and stood on soil for the first time in her life. Earth was alive. The forest stretched in all directions, green and wild. Birds sang in the trees. In the distance, she heard running water. And something else. Voices. Human voices. Figures emerged from the forest. Humans, but different. They wore simple clothes made from plant fibers. Some had paint on their faces. They carried spears and bows. They moved with a grace that Maya had never seen before, silent as shadows. An old man stepped forward. His skin was dark and weathered. His eyes were kind. He looked at the crashed shuttle and then at Maya with something like recognition. You are from the sky, he said in accented but clear English. We have been waiting for you. Maya stared at him. You're alive. Humans are alive. We survived, the old man said. We forgot much, but we survived. I am Elder Kofi. Welcome to Earth, child of Mars. Welcome home. Maya felt tears running down her face. They had made it. Against all odds, they had made it. And humans were still here, still fighting, still alive. The test wasn't over. But for the first time in 47 years, humanity had hope. Elder Kofi's village sat beside the ruins of what was once Geneva. Ancient buildings, now covered in vines and trees, stood like tombstones of the old world. But between these ruins, humans had built a new life. Simple homes made from wood and stone, gardens full of crops, children playing in the streets. Maya walked through the village, her mind spinning. She had expected to find death and emptiness. Instead, she found life. Real, thriving human life. How did you survive? She asked Kofi as he led her to his home. Behind them, Rita and Samira helped carry old Thomas. The crash had hurt him badly, but the village healer said he would live. Kofi smiled, his weathered face crinkling. We let go, he said simply. When the machines failed, when the technology died, we stopped trying to fix it. We went back to the old ways, growing food in soil, making tools with our hands, living with the earth instead of trying to control it. But the fracture, Maya said, it was killing everyone. The forgetfulness, the sickness. It killed those who held on to the old ways, Kofi agreed, those who needed the machines to live. But here, far from cities and technology, the fracture touched us less. And those of us who survived, we changed. That night, Kofi gathered the village elders. They sat around a fire and Maya shared everything. Her grandmother's research, the truth about the fracture, the possibility hidden in human DNA. An old woman named Chen Li listened carefully. When Maya finished, Chen Li smiled. Your grandmother was right. We have felt these changes in ourselves, some more than others. What changes? Maya asked. Bring Yuki, Chen Li called out. A young girl appeared, perhaps 15 years old. She had strange eyes, pupils that seemed to catch and reflect light oddly. She looked nervous, standing before the circle of adults. Yuki was born 5 years after the fracture, Kofi explained. She is special. Show them, child. Yuki closed her eyes. The fire in the center of their circle flickered and danced. Then, without anyone touching it, the flames bent sideways, forming shapes in the air. A bird, a flower, a human face, Maya gasped. How is that possible? I can feel things, Yuki said softly. The fire, the air, the earth. They all vibrate. I can sense the vibrations, and sometimes I can change them. Quantum manipulation, Maya whispered. You're doing what my grandmother theorized. You're interacting with reality at the quantum level. Over the next days, Maya met others like Yuki. There weren't many, perhaps 1 in 100, but they were growing more common. Children born after the fracture, especially those born to parents who had survived without technology. They could sense things others couldn't. Some could move small objects with their minds. Others could communicate across distances without speaking, but it was weak, inconsistent. They didn't understand what they were doing or how to control it. Maya spent weeks reviewing her grandmother's research with the village elders. Sarah Chen had mapped out a theoretical framework. The human brain, if trained properly, could create quantum entanglement with the world around it, but it required discipline, focus, and understanding. It's like a muscle, Maya explained to Kofi. You have to exercise it, build it up slowly. Then we teach, Kofi said. We have survived this long. We can learn to thrive. They started with the sensitives like Yuki. Maya and the village elders created training exercises based on Sarah's notes. Meditation techniques, focus drills, ways to sense and manipulate the quantum field. Progress was slow and frustrating. Some days Yuki could bend light around her fingers, making them invisible. Other days she couldn't make a candle flame flicker. But gradually, with practice and patience, control came. More survivors appeared. Small groups from other parts of the world, drawn by rumors of a village that had found the way forward. They brought news. Humanity wasn't extinct. Scattered tribes lived across Africa, South America, and Asia. Maybe a few million total, a tiny fraction of what once was. But they were alive, and now they had hope. One group brought someone special. An old man named Dr. James Park, who had been a neuroscientist before the fracture. He had survived in the mountains of Korea, and he understood what they were trying to do. The brain is a quantum computer, he explained to Maya. We just never learned to use it properly. We built external computers instead, but those are gone now. We have to use what's inside us. Together, Maya and Dr. Park refined the training. They discovered that the sensitives could link their minds together, sharing thoughts and feelings across distances. A group of 10 sensitives working together could accomplish things none could do alone. They called this the Ghost Network, because the connections between minds were invisible, untraceable. Someone in the village could communicate with someone 100 kilometers away, thoughts flowing through quantum entanglement. 15 years passed. Maya was 38 now. The village by the lake had grown into a small city. 5,000 people lived there, learning the new ways. The first generation of children born and raised with quantum training reached adulthood. They could do things that seemed like magic. Young men and women who could start fires with their minds. Healers who could sense sickness in the body and guide cells to heal themselves. Navigators who could sense magnetic fields and find their way across vast distances. Builders who could shape stone and metal with their thoughts. Humanity was evolving, changing, becoming something new. But there were limits. The quantum abilities required focus and energy. A person could manipulate fire, but they couldn't create it from nothing. They could sense distant places, but they couldn't teleport. They were not gods, just humans learning to use abilities they'd always had. Old Thomas died in his sleep during the 10th year. He had lived long enough to see the new generation, to know that humanity would survive. Maya buried him beside the lake, under a tree that had grown from a seed he'd planted. He believed in you, Kofi told her at the funeral. He believed in all of us. Maya looked at the city they'd built, at the children playing, using their gifts to make toys float and dance in the air, at the adults working together, quantum-linked minds coordinating complex tasks without speaking, at the farms where sensitives could sense what plants needed and help them grow stronger. This was what her grandmother had dreamed of. Humanity adapting, evolving, surviving, but Maya knew it wasn't enough. Somewhere out there beyond Earth, the galaxy continued on. The Galactic Council still existed. Other species still traveled the stars. And if humanity stayed on Earth, they would never reclaim their place among them. One night, Yuki came to Maya's home. She was 30 now, one of the most powerful sensitives alive. She could do things even Dr. Park couldn't explain. Create quantum entanglement across light years, sense distant stars, touch the fabric of space itself. I've been practicing something, Yuki said. I can feel something out there. Beyond the sky. Beyond Earth, there's someone watching us. Maya felt her heart race. Watching us? Who? I don't know. But they've been there for a long time, waiting. I think I can reach them. They gathered the strongest sensitives, 20 men and women who had trained their whole lives. Together, they linked their minds in the ghost network, their consciousness expanding outward, reaching beyond Earth's atmosphere, into the void of space. And there, at the edge of the solar system, they found him. Calthor jerked awake in his observation post. For 47 years he had watched the silent systems. For 47 years he had seen nothing. Now something touched his mind. A presence, strange and beautiful. Human consciousness, but changed, evolved. Reaching across the void to find him, images flowed into his mind. A crashed shuttle, a village. Children born with new abilities. Humans adapting, growing, becoming something the galaxy had never seen. Tears fell from Calthor's compound eyes. They had survived. Against all odds, against all history, humanity had survived. He reached out with his own mind. Weak compared to theirs, but present. He sent feelings of joy, of relief, of apology for the years of silence. The presence withdrew, but gently. And with it came a message, clear and simple. We remember, we forgive, and we are coming back. Calthor activated his communicator for the first time in decades. His hands shook as he entered the command. The message would take weeks to reach the Galactic Council, but he didn't care. He typed, "Humanity lives, and they have changed everything." Maya opened her eyes. The other sensitives were waking too, wonder on their faces. "We made contact," she whispered. "Someone was watching." "Someone remembers us," Yuki smiled. "Then it's time. Time to go back to the stars." The gathering of elders met that night. The question was simple but profound. Should humanity reveal themselves to the galaxy? Were they ready? "We are different now," Kofi said. "We are not the humans who fell. We have learned. We have grown. But we are still learning," Dr. Park cautioned. "Our abilities are powerful, but we are not invincible." Maya thought of her grandmother, of old Thomas, of all the humans who had died in the fracture. They had sacrificed everything. For what? So humanity could hide on one planet forever? "We go," Maya said. "We build a ship. We train a crew. And we show the galaxy what humanity has become. Not to conquer. Not to take revenge. But to stand as equals again." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would return to the stars. Building a ship without machines was supposed to be impossible. But humanity had learned that impossible was just another problem to solve. They started with what they had. Pieces of old spacecraft scattered across Earth. Ruins of factories and shipyards overgrown but not destroyed. And most importantly, they had minds that could touch quantum reality itself. Maya stood in what was once called Geneva Spaceport. Dozens of sensitives surrounded her, their minds linked in the ghost network. Together, they reached out to a twisted piece of hull, metal that had been sitting in the rain for 60 years. Rust flaked away as quantum manipulation worked at the molecular level. Impurities separated. The metal reformed itself, becoming pure and strong again. "It's working," Dr. Park said, monitoring with instruments they'd built by hand. "The molecular bonds are restructuring." Yuki, now the most powerful sensitive alive, stood at the center of the network. Sweat ran down her face from the effort. It's like singing to the metal, asking it to remember what it used to be. The work took 5 years. They couldn't just build a ship. They had to grow it piece by piece, mixing technology with biology. The hull was metal, but alive somehow, able to repair itself. The power core was fusion, but controlled by quantum manipulation instead of computers. The navigation system relied on sensitives who could feel the currents of space itself. It shouldn't have worked. But it did. The ship was beautiful in a strange way. Organic curves mixed with hard edges. It looked like a seed pod crossed with a starship. They named it Rising Phoenix for the bird that was born from ashes. Maya stood on the bridge as they prepared for the first test flight. She was 62 now, her hair gray, her hands weathered. But her mind was sharp, linked to every member of the crew through the ghost network. Yuki sat beside her, now 40, serving as the ship's pilot and navigator. 20 other sensitives crewed various stations. "Ready?" Maya asked. Yuki closed her eyes, feeling the ship around her, sensing the quantum currents that flowed through space. Ready. The Phoenix rose from Earth smoothly, powered by thoughts as much as engines. They left the atmosphere behind and entered the void. Earth fell away, blue and beautiful, humanity's cradle and refuge. Setting course for the old observation post, Yuki said, where the Watcher waits. Calthor's instruments screamed alerts. Something was approaching. His old hearts hammered in his chest. After 62 years of silence, something was finally entering the dead zone. The ship that appeared on his sensors made no sense. It had a fusion signature, but also biological readings. It moved like it was alive, dancing through space with impossible grace, and from it came a signal. Not radio or quantum communication, but something else. A touch of consciousness reaching out to his own. The Phoenix docked with Calthor's station. Maya and Yuki crossed into the observation post, wearing simple suits that the sensitives had made, but they didn't really need them. They could survive in vacuum for hours now, their bodies protected by quantum fields they generated unconsciously. Calthor stood in his airlock, compound eyes wide. The humans before him looked ordinary enough, but he could feel the power radiating from them, the way reality bent slightly around them. "You came," he said, his translator crackling from decades of disuse. "You actually came," Maya smiled. "You waited. Someone had to thank you for that," she told him everything. The crash on Earth, the village, the training, the evolution. Calthor listened with wonder growing in his hearts. This shouldn't have been possible. Every species that experienced a fracture event died out within a generation. "How long until we reach council space?" Maya asked. Calthor hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this? The council abandoned your species. Some will not be happy to see you return." "We're sure," Yuki said. "We have something to offer the galaxy, and we need to take our place among the stars again." The journey to council space took 2 weeks. The Phoenix moved faster than any human ship before it, guided by Yuki's quantum sense. Word spread ahead of them, impossible rumors. Humanity had returned from extinction. Humanity had changed. The Great Council Station appeared ahead, a massive structure that orbited a neutral star. Thousands of ships from dozens of species filled the space around it, but they all moved aside as the Phoenix approached, giving the strange human vessel a wide berth. The council chamber was packed. Representatives from every major species gathered to witness what shouldn't exist. The Varan collective, ancient and vast, hummed with curiosity. The Thorian ambassador's rocky body trembled. Even species that usually ignored galactic politics had sent observers. Maya and Yuki walked into the chamber. Behind them came 10 other humans, all powerful sensitives. They wore simple clothes, nothing like the uniforms of old human diplomats. But they carried themselves with quiet confidence. The chamber fell silent. The council leader, a being of pure energy, spoke first. "You are human, but you cannot be human. Your species is extinct. We witnessed your collapse. You witnessed us fall," Maya agreed. "But you didn't stay to see us rise." She showed them what humanity had become. With Yuki's help, she demonstrated their abilities. They moved objects without touching them. They linked their minds, sharing thoughts across the vast chamber. They manipulated energy fields, bent light, and touched the quantum fabric of reality itself. The council was stunned. This was impossible. Humans had been gone for 62 years. How could they have evolved so far in such a short time? "The fracture forced us to change," Maya explained. "We had to let go of technology and learn to use what was inside us. Our species developed abilities naturally that took others millions of years to evolve." The Varan collective spoke, its voice echoing with ancient wisdom. "You have accomplished something we have never witnessed. You passed through the fracture and emerged stronger. We want to rejoin the galactic community," Maya said, "not as conquerors, not seeking revenge, but as equals who have something to teach." "Teach," the Thorian ambassador rumbled. "What could you teach us?" "How to survive the fracture," Yuki said. "Because it's not just going to happen to one species. It's accelerating. More species are approaching the threshold. They need to know how to prepare." The council erupted in worried voices. The Varan confirmed it was true. Several species were showing early signs. The fracture could strike any civilization that advanced too quickly. For hours they debated. Some species welcomed humanity's return. Others feared it. The humans were different now, more powerful than before. Could they be trusted? In the end, the Council voted to grant humanity provisional membership. They could return to the stars, rebuild colonies, rejoin civilization. In exchange, humanity would share what they learned about surviving the fracture. Maya felt relief wash through her. They had done it. Humanity had its place back. But the celebration was short-lived. 3 days after the Council meeting, a massive fleet appeared at the edge of Council space, ships of human design but old ones, ancient colony ships from the first diaspora. The lead ship broadcast a message. "This is Admiral Jason Webb of the Drift Colonies. We are humanity's true survivors, and we have come home." Maya felt her stomach drop. The Drift Colonies. Ships that had fled into deep space during the fracture. She thought they were all lost. Admiral Webb was a hard man with cold eyes. He looked at Maya and her sensitives with disgust. "You call yourselves human? You're freaks, mutations. The fracture tried to destroy us and you let it change you." "We adapted," Maya said. "We survived." "We survived without becoming monsters," Webb shot back. "We kept our technology. We kept our humanity. We just ran far enough that the fracture couldn't reach us." The Drift Colonies had taken a different path. While Maya's people evolved, they had maintained their technology by isolating themselves at the edge of the galaxy. Their ships were huge, powerful, armed with weapons from before the fracture. They had survived by staying purely technological, purely unchanged. "The Council betrayed us once," Webb told the assembled representatives. "They watched us die. Why should we trust them now? Why should we help them?" A rift opened in humanity, the evolved led by Maya and Yuki, the technological led by Admiral Webb, both human, both survivors. But they disagreed on everything. Webb wanted to take back human space by force, to make the Council pay for abandoning them, to establish humanity as the dominant military power so they'd never be vulnerable again. Maya wanted cooperation, teaching, helping others avoid humanity's suffering. The Council watched nervously as the two human factions argued. They had worried about one group of humans returning. Now they had two, and they were at each other's throats. Calthor met with Maya privately. "Can you stop them?" Maya shook her head. "Webb isn't wrong to be angry. The Council did abandon us, and his people survived too. We can't force them to our way of thinking, but if humans fight each other, we won't," Maya said. "We're different, but we're still human. We'll find a way." She hoped she was right, because the galaxy was watching again, watching to see if humanity would destroy itself before it even got a chance to rise. Deep in Council space, the Varen Collective observed quietly. Humanity had survived the fracture, but now came a different test. Could they survive their own division? Could they find unity in diversity? The answer would determine not just humanity's future, but perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy. Because the next fracture was coming, and when it hit, for 3 months the two human factions remained apart. Maya's evolved humans built a small outpost near Earth, teaching sensitives and expanding their abilities. Admiral Webb's technological humans established a military base in the asteroid belt, their weapons pointed outward at the galaxy that had abandoned them. The Council watched nervously. So did Calthor, who had seen humanity at its best and now feared seeing it at its worst. Then the emergency message arrived. The Vorath Dominion was experiencing a fracture event. The Vorath were a proud warrior species, insectoid like Calthor, but larger and more aggressive. They had conquered 20 systems through military might. Their technology was the most advanced in known space, and now it was all falling apart. Within weeks of the first symptoms, the Vorath military commander did what made sense to a warrior species. He blamed his enemies. The Council must have developed a quantum weapon. Humanity, mysteriously returned from death, must be behind it. This was an attack that required retaliation. The Vorath fleet launched toward Council space. Hundreds of warships, their weapons still functional even as their crews began forgetting how to use them. A dying civilization's final act of rage. Panic spread through the Council. The Vorath fleet was massive, and even damaged, it could destroy dozens of worlds before burning out. Council defenses weren't designed for this kind of assault. They had relied on diplomacy and trade for millions of years. "We need to evacuate the border systems," the Council leader announced. "There's no other choice." Maya stood in the emergency session. "There is another choice. Let us help the Vorath." The chamber erupted in protests. Help the species that was attacking them? Madness. "The fracture is driving them mad," Maya explained. "They're scared and confused. They think you're attacking them, but we can show them the truth. We can guide them through it like we guided ourselves. You barely survived your own fracture, the Thorian ambassador rumbled. How can you help them? Because we learned, Yuki said, standing beside Maya. We know what to expect. We know the stages. We can teach them to let go of what's killing them and embrace what will save them. Admiral Webb attended the session with his officers. This is suicide. The Vorath won't listen. They'll kill anyone who approaches. Maybe, Maya agreed. But we have to try, Webb stared at her. Why? Why risk human lives for a species that would have watched us die? Because we're better than that, Maya said quietly. We survived the fracture. We learned. We changed. And if we don't use what we learned to help others, then what was it all for? The chamber fell silent. Even Webb had no answer for that. Finally, the Varen Collective spoke. The Council cannot officially sanction this. The risk is too great, but we will not stop humanity from trying. If you succeed, you save millions of Vorath lives and countless Council citizens. If you fail... The ancient consciousness didn't need to finish the sentence. Maya turned to face Webb. We need your help. My people can guide the Vorath through the quantum changes, but we need protection to reach them. Your ships, your weapons. Together we might succeed. Apart we'll fail. Webb was silent for a long moment. His officers looked at him, waiting. Finally he spoke. My grandfather was Marcus Webb, Fleet Admiral during the fracture. His last order was to survive no matter what. I've been following that order for 62 years. He paused. But maybe it's time to do more than just survive. He extended his hand to Maya. Evolved and technological, working together. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. Maya took his hand. Together, the combined human fleet approached Vorath space 3 weeks later. 10 of Webb's warships surrounded the Rising Phoenix and 5 other evolved ships. Inside each vessel, sensitives linked their minds, creating a network that stretched across the fleet. The Vorath military met them at the border. Massive battlecruisers, weapons charged, crews barely holding together under the fracture's influence. This is Admiral Webb of the human fleet. We're here to help. The response was weapons fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the human ships. Shields, Webb ordered. His technological shields absorbed most of the damage, but 2 missiles got through, heading straight for the Rising Phoenix. Yuki closed her eyes. Through the ghost network, she linked with 50 other sensitives. Together, they reached out to the missiles, touched their quantum cores, and gently convinced the fusion warheads not to explode. The missiles went dark and drifted harmlessly past. Impressive, Webb muttered. Maya opened a channel. Vorath ships, stand down. We know what's happening to you. The confusion, the forgetfulness, the fear. We've experienced it. We survived it. We can show you how. A Vorath commander appeared on screen, his compound eyes wild. Lies, human tricks. You attack us with quantum weapons. No weapon, Maya said. It's called the fracture. It happens when species advance too quickly. It happened to us 60 years ago. It nearly destroyed us. But we learned to survive it. Please let us help. The Vorath fleet hesitated. The commander's confusion was visible. Part of him wanted to keep fighting, but part of him recognized truth in Maya's words. Let one ship through, he finally said. One ship. If this is a trick, we destroy you all. The Rising Phoenix moved forward alone into Vorath space. Maya, Yuki, and 20 sensitives aboard. No weapons. No shields. Just humans and hope. They entered the Vorath homeworld's orbit. The planet below was chaos. Cities dark. Forests burning. The fracture was hitting the Vorath harder than it hit humanity. Their species was more interconnected, more dependent on technology. Maya's team went to the surface with Vorath military escorts. What they found was heartbreaking. Vorath civilians wandering in confusion, unable to remember their own names. Children crying for parents who didn't recognize them. Hospitals full of patients that doctors had forgotten how to treat. It's worse than it was for us, Yuki whispered. Then we work faster, Maya said. Find the sensitives. The ones born since the fracture started. They'll be the key. It took days of searching, but they found them. Young Vorath who could feel quantum vibrations. Not many, but enough. Maya and Yuki began teaching them, showing them how to sense and manipulate reality. Dr. Park, now 90 years old, had come along to help. His knowledge of neural patterns worked across species. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Webb's fleet defended the planet from Vorath military ships whose crews had gone completely mad. He didn't destroy them. Instead, his ship's disabled weapons captured crews kept them safe until they could be healed. Weeks passed. Then months. Slowly, the young Vorath sensitives learned. They taught others. Knowledge spread through the survivor communities. The Vorath were learning to let go of their old ways, to embrace their quantum abilities. It wasn't easy. Many died. Entire cities were lost before the knowledge could reach them. But enough survived. Enough learned. 6 months after humanity arrived, the Vorath fracture began to subside. The quantum field accepted them. Not as they were, but as they were becoming. The Vorath commander who had first met them stood before Maya. He was different now, calmer, his eyes clear. "You saved my people, why?" "We would have killed you." "Because we understand suffering," Maya said, "and because no species should face the fracture alone." News of humanity's success spread across the galaxy faster than light. The species that had been declared extinct had returned stronger, and instead of seeking revenge, they had saved their former enemies. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. This time, every species attended. They all wanted to see the humans who had changed everything. Maya and Admiral Webb stood before them together. Evolved and technological united. "The fracture is not a weapon or a curse," Maya addressed the Council. "It's evolution's price. Every species that advances too quickly will face it. But it doesn't have to mean extinction. We can prepare. We can teach. We can help each other survive." The Council leader glowed brighter. "What do you propose?" "A new role for the Council," Webb said. "Not just governing, but teaching. Help species develop naturally before they advance too far technologically. And when the fracture comes, don't quarantine, don't watch. Help. We propose that humanity establishes watchtower stations throughout the galaxy," Maya added. "Both evolved and technological humans working together. When a species shows signs of approaching their fracture, we'll be there to guide them through it." The Varen Collective spoke, its ancient voice full of something that might have been hope. "You would share this knowledge freely? Ask nothing in return?" "We ask for partnership," Maya said. "We're not humanity's saviors. We're survivors with hard-won experience. Work with us. Learn with us. Build a galaxy where the fracture is a challenge we face together, not a death sentence we face alone." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed back as full council members. Both factions, recognized as one species with two equally valid paths. The Watchtower Initiative was approved, funded, supported by the entire council. Calthor watched from the gallery, tears streaming from his compound eyes. He had maintained his vigil for 62 years, never losing faith. And now he witnessed humanity take its place not just among the stars, but as leaders in a new age. After the session, Maya found him,